There are two types of PCA9685 available. One with a low-power tiny P-channel MOSFET, or a high-power MOSFET, which is in series from the DC supply connector as V+. This MOSFET acts effectively like a diode in series to protect the board from reverse polarity accidentally fed. Using a forward biased diode as traditionally followed in electronic circuits for reverse polarity protection develops a substantial voltage drop of 0.6 to 0.8 volts depending upon the current passing through it. Using a MOSFET with very low RDS causes a smaller voltage drop and a very low I2R loss. MOSFET IRLML6401 used in PCA9685 having RDS of 0.05 causes a voltage drop of only 0.2 volts in 4 amps current. While if a simple diode use would have caused of about 0.8 volts for same amount of current. Moreover, as this tiny P-channel MOSFET has maximum drain current of around 4 amps, overdraw results in burning it. Some costly boards use a high power capable of handling much higher current. Thus if number of high torque servo motors operate simultaneously drawing about say 8 amps, the low power PCA9685 simply smokes. Therefore either use the high power type or carry out some modifications to simple PCA9685. Remove the tiny MOSFET and connect V+ from the connector directly to the servo pins V+ and similarly the ground. One will lose the reverse polarity protection, but one can then drive all 16 high torque servos simultaneously if required. However, the DC power supply used needs to handle that much of current too, and use of additional filter capacitor accordingly is also required. As a rule of thumb, 1000 UF electrolytic capacitor for every 1 amp current. Thus use of 10,000 UF capacitor across the DC bus. The other problem that arises many a times that the back EMF of the DC motors inside the servo motors develop high voltage spikes on the DC bus, and if the control circuit like Arduino also gets supply from the same bus, it simply resets. Programmers often try to address the same problem by fiddling with code unsuccessfully, not understanding the root cause being the hardware. To overcome this problem, use a high power switching diode of 4 to 6 amps in reverse bias connection across the servo DC supply bus. Thank you. Please subscribe.